哎，罗教授，能听到吗？
可以，可以，蛮好的，是 good。
哦，那说明我这边可以了，我又安装
，OK
了一下，
OK。
安装了一下试试。
嗯。
几点开始？
呃，
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Minjung Kim. I'm a professor of Department of Economics at Chungnam National University. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all the online and offline participants. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the opening ceremony for the third International Conference on the First Industrial Revolution and the Global Value Chain. This conference focuses on the topics of the reconfiguration of the GBC in the post-COVID-19 era. These issues are very important for researchers as well as policymakers to promote security of supply and ensure a sustainable economic recovery. I hope this conference will provide you great opportunities to understand the economic impact and the consequence of the current COVID-19 pandemic. We'll now begin the opening ceremony of the third International Conference on the First Industrial Revolution and the Global Value Chain. We'll start with the opening remarks by Professor Moon-hee Chol, the President of the National Economics and Management Association of the Korea, and also Director of the Management and Economic Research Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Professor Moon a warm welcome.
Thank you, Professor Kim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Daja Xiao Hao. I'm very happy to declare the opening of the ISIC 2021, the third International Conference on Industrial Revolution 4.0 and GVC, to all the participants and honored guests, including 3 keynote speakers, and especially the online participants through Zoom meeting or YouTube channel. As you might already know, the main theme of today's conference is reconfiguration of GBCs in the post-COVID-19 era, which is one of the most important research subject of Mary as one of the key research institutes in universities supported by National Research Foundation of Korea. I think we are living in the world of characterized by globalization 4.0, which means the simultaneous advent of the fourth industrial revolution and more deepened globalization. However, COVID-19 pandemic since early last year changed everything. Recently, WTO predicted a trade fall of between 30%, 13%, and 32%, while UNCTAD estimate a foreign direct investment contraction of 30% to 40% during the 2020 and 2021. I think to overcome worldwide economic crisis after COVID-19 and to counteract the reconfiguration of GBCs, most countries, especially developing countries, should concentrate their efforts around 3 strategic areas of policy action, which means more diversification from narrow focus on manufacturing to more emphasis on new sectors, including creative and digital economy, and strengthening regional value chains and stronger state regulations. Thus, today's conference is specially organized with NEMA, National Economics and Management Association, and KAISI, Korea Association for International Commerce and Information, to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on global value chain, to promote a more resilient GBCs and ensure a sustainable economic recovery within a shortest time. I sincerely hope this conference would be one of the most important platforms for more active international corporate research among all the esteemed scholars and participants here, and policy development for sustainable growth of Asian countries in the globalization 4.0 era. Thank you very much. 非常感谢.
Thank you, Professor Moon, for kindly introducing the intent and objectives of the conference. Now, we are pleased to introduce Professor Kim Hyung-jun, the Dean of the College of the Economics and Management at Chungnam National University. He'll give a welcoming remarks. Please give a round of applause for Dean Kim Hyung-jun.
Thank you. As Professor Kim introduced me, I am a Dean of College of the Economics and Management. My name is Kim Hyung-jun. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to deliver the welcoming message to all the conference participants. On behalf of the faculty and the students, I welcome all the participants for attending the third international conference on IR 4.0 and GVC. Above all, I'd like to thank the distinguished keynote speaker, who are Professor Lee Hyun-hoon, Gangwon National University, Korea, Professor Lim Sung-bae, St. Mary's University, USA, and Professor Du Jiangguo, Jiangsu University, Zhenjiang, China. I also appreciate Dr. Moon Hee Chul, Director of the MARI of the Chungnam National University, plus all the staff for organizing the international conference, though under the difficulty of the COVID-19. As we all know, we are experiencing the unprecedented era due to the pandemic, and we are expecting the society of the post-COVID-19 will be different from before. Especially, the pandemic will change the way of global business dramatically, and the global value chain will certainly be different from what it used to be. Therefore, I think this conference is very meaningful in terms of how the future of the GVC will reorganize the company's strategy responding to the change. I also think this conference will give us a significant implication for how Korean industry and the companies should search for the creative innovation in order to gain the new competitive advantage under the change of the GVC and to sustain them continuously after the end of the COVID-19. I hope this conference would be a valuable opportunity to make friends with each other, as well as give a meaningful chance to share the participants' good ideas, information, and knowledge. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Kim Hyung-jun, for your welcoming remarks. Now it's time to present you a very special guest who will deliver congratulatory remarks, Professor Lim Jae-uk, President of the Korea Association for International Conference and Information. Please welcome Professor Lim Jae-uk with a big hands.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all the participants and honored guests. Welcome to the third International Conference on Industry Revolution 4 and Global Value Chain, ICIG 2021. I'm Jae Lim, the president of the KAICI, the Korea Association for International Commerce and Information. I'm very glad to co-host this conference today. I give a special thanks to Dr. Kim Hyung-jun, the Dean, the College of Economics and Management of CNU, and Dr. Moon Hee-chul, the Director, Mary, the CNU, and the presenters, commentators, moderators, and all participants. As you know, COVID-19 is changing how rules and practices of industry and business. And the new normal is emerging in international business and the global value chain too. This changing, the so-called uncontacted business, is not a wholly new one, but a foreseen shift for decades with the development of information technologies and internet networking. We have presented for a long time this IT-based business would be the main routine in the future. The COVID-19 had advanced this new normal. IT revolution has led this dramatic change to cope with the coronavirus crisis. Digital economy is still on the way, and the IR4 is just started and on its introduction stage. Nobody knows the next stage, but many of us predicted this speedy change, that is IT revolution. This revolution is rising in many fields: information technology, sensors, networking, protocols, privacy, securities, related hardware and softwares, including blockchains, smart mobilities, controls, Internet of Things, laws and rules, and the other many fields are related to this revolution. I hope that this conference could be an opportunity to share and promote our research ideas, opinions, and cooperation. It's my great honor and pleasure to join ICIG 2021. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lim Jae-uk. I'm privileged to introduce three distinguished keynote speakers this afternoon. First keynote speaker is Professor Lee Hyun-hoon from Gangwon National University in Korea. He's also president of the International Urban Training Center. He was a senior analyst at the ASEAN Pacific Economic Cooperation Secretary. And he was also senior environmental affairs officer at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific region. Today, he will deliver a speech about the new world after COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Professor Lee a warm welcome.
Thank you very much for your very kind introduction. It's my great honor and pleasure to be part of this very much important and timely conference. Also, I'd like to say that I have a very, close personal tie to Chungnam National University because my hometown is actually Yuseong, Daejeon. So, in the sense, I feel that I'm speaking to my friends of my earlier days. Today my talk is very much related to what is happening in terms of the fourth industrial revolution as well as a new wave of globalization, which are the two key words of this conference. So let me just begin my talk with the slides that I have prepared. Let me see how I can do that. Okay, I hope that you can see my slides with the title of 8 New Normals in the Post-COVID World, right? Okay, then. You know, as you know, one of the speakers earlier in this plenary session just remarked, you know, some new normals are now appearing with the current COVID-19 pandemic. So I like to actually summarize the new normals in terms of 8 new normals. So what are they? I just share them very much shortly. Before I do that, I like to just make a note that I just wrote 2 different books last year during the COVID pandemic period, of course. One is written in Korean, another in English. So one is published in Korea, another in international publisher, World Scientific. So my talk is very much based on these 2 books. These 2 books actually are talking about what will happen to the world economy, particularly with a special focus on Industry 4.0, I mean Industrial Revolution 4.0, or the fourth Industrial Revolution, and the deglobalization. But the deglobalization means that the current wave of globalization has come to an end, but I argue that we are now witnessing a new wave of globalization arising. Right. So I'd like to talk about what will happen to the world economy as well as business, and almost every aspect of our daily life. But my feature spans just 10 years, so from 2020 to 2030. Well, I'd like to first begin with a book by Jared Diamond. Perhaps many of you have already read this book, or at least have heard of this book. He says that actually there are 3 important things that have changed the human life in the past history. One of them is germs. Germs means virus, so disease and things like that. So the coronavirus, I'm arguing that is another kind of disease that is now changing the entire world. Well, if we look back our past history, the Black Death was a very clear evidence for such kind of drastic change because of the pandemic. So Black Death occurred in the mid 14th century, mostly in Europe, and it killed about 25 million Europeans, which was about 1/3 of Europe's total population. And it marked the transition from the Middle Ages, the dark Middle Ages, to the human-centric Renaissance period, as you know. And another pandemic which actually shaped the world as a whole was Spanish flu. So it infected about 500 million people, which was about 1/3 of total population in the world at the time. And it killed about 25 million to 100 million people. And it also served the catalyst for the second industrial revolution. Of course, the second industrial revolution started a little bit earlier than that, but because of this pandemic, the second industrial revolution speeded up very much because of, for example, because of the shortage of labor, as many people died of the Spanish flu. So now we are now living in the middle of the third very important pandemic, which is a COVID-19 pandemic. This 2 graphs shows the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic as of today, as a matter of fact. More than 170 million people have been officially confirmed, which means that this is just the official number. The actual number of the infected people should be perhaps far greater than this number. So many people believe that the actual number should be at least 5 times greater than the confirmed cases, which means a lot of people have been already infected by the pandemic. at the same time, I like to emphasize that even if now the daily number of confirmed cases now decreasing in the recent weeks, but perhaps there could be another wave of the pandemic, perhaps later this year when the winter season comes back in the northern hemisphere. And so just like the earlier pandemics, like Black Death and Spanish flu, our current pandemic is now doing a role of catalyst for new normals, which are just summarized as evolution of Homo sapiens to digital globalization. So I'd like to just speed up to just emphasize the important aspects of each of these 8 new normals. Number one, once again, is the evolution of Homo sapiens. So we human beings are Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens appeared on Earth about 300,000 years ago in Africa first, and then it emigrated to Europe, Asia, and Oceania, and America, as you know. But now, Homo sapiens have become an endangered species, and the new species of humans is now making a great strides to take over the planet, the Earth. So what is that? That is what we call Homo digitalis. So why would I argue that? Because now we are now living in the middle of the third ultra mega revolutions of humans. The first ultra mega revolution. I mean, there were 2 very important ultra mega revolutions. One was agricultural revolution, which occurred about 10,000 years ago. In other words, even if Homo sapiens appeared 300,000 years ago, for about 290,000 years, they just lived, relying on their own human physical labor. But only 10,000 years ago, the Homo sapiens began to use some other means of labor, which were actually animal force, like cows and horses. And because of such an evolution, the Homo sapiens were able to settle in just one specific place, and the population increased very much drastically after the first ultra mega revolution. And the second ultra mega revolution occurred in the mid 18th century, first in Europe and then in North America, as you know, which was the first industrial revolution, because it was a very much a ultra mega revolution because of the industrial revolution at the time. Now humans were able to utilize machines, okay, for making things. Previously, only the animal force was the kind of means that humans were able to utilize to make farming or to make any things. But because of the industrial revolution, people were able to utilize the mechanical power to do many different things. So this was a very ultra mega revolution, and it was succeeded by the second and the third industrial revolutions, which were very much similar because, as far as I'm concerned, they were all analog industrial revolutions. But now we are now in the middle of the third ultra mega revolution, which is the fourth industrial revolution, or you may say IR 4.0. It is quite different from the previous 3 industrial revolutions because now this is a digital revolution, but the previous 3 industrial revolutions were very much analog revolutions. So what do I mean by that? Well, some key features of the fourth industrial revolution. For example, when Steve Jobs first introduced iPhone in 2007, he said, well, this little machine will change the world, will change everything, will change the way we live. And you just think of all those new machines and technologies like artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things, cloud computing, digital platform, e-commerce, fintech, nanotech, material engineering, bioscience, robots, 3D printing, and so on and so forth. What are they? They are actually very much the machines and technologies which are actually replacing not only the human physical labor, but also human mental labor. So because of the convergence of digital technologies of all these different kinds, now we are now witnessing kind of nuclear fusion of technologies. In other words, this is a real, genuine, third, ultra mega revolution of Homo sapiens. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is actually speeding up this ultra mega revolution because of the economic lockdowns and social distancing. All of a sudden, we are forced to stay home, right? And we just started working from home. We started, studying at home through various means of digital education. Even now, we are now holding international conference, not only just gathering in just one place, but also by participating through Zoom. So I'm actually now working from home because I'm now actually speaking to you from my study in my personal home. And also because of the pandemic, now people are very much eager to move toward a new world because many people believe that the COVID-19 pandemic started because of the malfunctioning of the old world, of our world. So we just want to move toward a new world. And because of the pandemic, the central banks and the governments of all countries actually increased money supply and government spending quite a lot. And then because of the economic lockdowns and social distancing, and because of the increasing demand for a new world, the tech companies grew very rapidly all of a sudden. And these companies' market capitalization doubled on average due to the soaring stock prices. As you can see here now, Nasdaq Composite, for example, increased by more than 50% just for 1 year last year. Even in the case of Korea, very much the same. So on your right-hand side, you can see the Kosdaq Composite Index rising for the past year. And also, if you were to look at some specific tech companies like Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft, and Alphabet, and Tesla, they all actually enjoyed a great increase in their market capitalization. What does that mean? That means now these tech companies are now endowed with a great amount of money, which can be used for even more of very enthusiastic and active R&D activities. So previously, before the fourth industrial revolution, we economists thought that the GDP is a function of labor, capital, and land, right? Even for any company, actually, the company needs labor force and capital and land and technology to produce any goods and services. But now with the fourth industrial revolution, not only these three production factors, now we need two more very important production factors, which are AI robots and big data. AI robots and big data are kind of new production factors which are really in need to grow for any nation or for any company. Now, I just want to emphasize the importance of F. F actually stands for the technology level. So technology itself is now becoming far more important than before as well. So now we now have a new species called Homo digitalis. Now we have various names for that, Robo sapiens, because now we are very much increasingly utilizing AI robots. And some people say that, you know, the new species is called Phono sapiens because we do everything with our smartphones in our palms. And Yuval Harari says that actually the new species is named as Homo Deus because now we humans are becoming very much like God, because now we extend our human life very much greatly because of the nanotechnology and, you know, bioscience and many new technologies, and also because of such a development. Now we can actually make ourselves happier, even according to his argument. Anyway, well, I don't have much time to explain to you about why he thought so. But anyway, so there are various names for the new species. But one thing clear is that we are now actually evolving to become a new species very much. The new species now migrating to a new place. As I said, Homo sapiens started in Africa and then emigrated to Europe, Asia, and Oceania, and then America, right? Now, the new species, which is Homo digitalis, well, we may just continue to say that it's just a Homo sapiens. Either Homo sapiens or Homo digitalis are now migrating to a new place. That place is a virtual digital world or metaverse. Even now, I'm now actually talking to you using, you know, Zoom, which means now actually I'm now doing my work in a virtual digital world, you know, metaverse. So perhaps half of my total daily time perhaps is now spent in the digital world, not in the real physical world. So in that sense, now we are now emigrating from physical world to virtual world. So because of, you know, virtual reality or augmented reality and many other means of digital networking, as you know. So Roblox, for example, even Geppetto, you know, these are kind of, you know, they was started as kind of a digital game platform, but now actually people do almost everything that you can imagine. You know, people just play music, people, you know, buy things, they're selling things, they also, you know, just make some musical performance as well. You do almost everything that you can imagine in the real world. Well, you are now looking at my personal avatar that I just created in Geppetto myself. Perhaps, you know, next year we can just meet by just sending our avatars in just one single metaverse and holding this kind of conference very much. And so The Economist once just carried an article last year, just 1 year ago, with a title of Working Life Has Entered a New Era. Farewell BC and welcome AD. Here BC stands for before coronavirus and welcome AD after domestication. Domestication means, you know, that means people, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, now people are now increasingly working from home, studying from home, and doing almost everything at home. You know, you just enjoy yourself by just watching movies or by just ordering, you know, things through electronic commerce very much. So in that sense, you know, actually now we are entering a new era, AD, after domestication. As a matter of fact, you know, if you look back, there are 300,000 years of Homo sapiens history. It has been only 200 years or so for very special kind of working life. You know, only after the first industrial revolution, people started to commute to school and to workplace, to study and to work. Before that, people mostly stayed home. They just stayed home working. They stayed home studying. But now we are just perhaps going back to where we were. Well, there are many evidence for that. For example, according to a research institute of Stanford University, for example, in the U.S. commercial office buildings price have fallen in very dense areas, central business district areas. And that's what we call a donut effect. So because people want to just move outside of the very populated urban area. So because of the growth of working from home. There are many other graphs that show that people are now moving outside of the central area of the cities. Well, the third new normal is elderly society. Well, as you know, our life expectancy has been growing very rapidly. When the first industrial revolution started, the expected life expectancy at the time was less than 40 years. But now people, expect to live at least 80 years old, right? But now perhaps even longer. Most of you perhaps will live up to 100 years of age, even longer, right? Because of that, the society is now very rapidly transforming to an aged society. Another reason for the rapid transformation of demographic picture is because of the low fertility, as you know. So as you see now, the percentage of persons aged 65 years or over increasing very rapidly for most of the countries, particularly Japan, Euro area, the US, and Korea. Korea is catching up with Japan, Euro area, and the US very much rapidly in terms of the share of old age population. And what's very much alarming is that Korea is #1, which will experience the largest percentage point increase in the share of old persons aged 65 years or over between 2019 to 2050. And this also shows that most of the advanced countries in Europe and Asia, in North America, are going to experience a very rapid transformation of population to the aged society very much. And in 2050, Korea is expected to become the second to Japan in terms of the aged population. So Korea's old age dependence ratio, which means the ratio of population aged 65 or over divided by the population of aged 15 to 65 are now just about 22.4%, but in 10 years or so, it will increase to over 40%, and then in 2050, it will reach to 80% even. Perhaps the speed will become even faster than this expectation. So what does this all mean? Number one is the polarization of wealth between the elderly and the young. According to one research, half of the world's wealth is occupied by people aged 60 or over, which means the wealth, not in just one single country, but in most of the countries, more than half of the wealth is now owned by people who are very much old. It is even more severe in the US. So about 80% of the US wealth is now owned by the elderly people. But within the elderly, actually, there is also great polarization of wealth between them. Some elderly people are very rich and some others are not. And the third characteristic, I think, is very much important. Well, now we'll see a great portion of the elderly people, while the labor force, I mean, the young age population will become smaller. as the percentage of total population, of course. What does that mean? That means, well, labor is one of the important production factors, right? So other things being equal, perhaps, the economic growth in terms of supply will shrink quite a lot as the population aging speeds up. But because of the first industrial revolution, as I said, now we have new production factors, which are artificial intelligence, robots, and big data. And because of those new technologies and new machines, perhaps the production will continue to increase. Perhaps even will increase even greater than before. However, consumption demand will shrink definitely because robots will not consume at all, right? Robots are part of the production, but the robots, AI, they do not eat at all. They do not wear nothing. But we humans consume. But now there will be greater portion of the elderly people, which means the elderly people consume less than the young people. So the consumption demand will shrink, which means that there is a great possibility of secular stagnation in the coming years and divide society. Well, you are looking at a picture of Mumbai, India. The top 1% of India's population holds nearly 3/4 of the nation's wealth. This is just incredible, incredible. The whole society is just divided into two groups. One very small portion of very wealthy people and the majority of people who are very much mean. And as you see now, it's not just India, but many of the countries you see. Now China, France, Russia, the UK, and US, you see, the top 1% wealth shares across the whole world are on the rise, right? So there is a great increasing polarization of wealth. Not only the wealth, but also the income. As you see now, the top 10% income shares of the most selected countries here, India, US, Canada, Russia, China, and Europe. As you see now, the top 10% income shares have been increasing very rapidly as well since the years of 1980. Well, now also this is another picture that shows that the increasing share of top 10% on your left-hand side and on your right-hand side, bottom 50% income shares, which are all decreasing for most of the countries. And that's also true for Korea. You see now the red line here in this graph shows the top 10% income share in Korea. That is increasing from about 30% in 1980 to about 45% in the most recent year, while the bottom 50% income share has been decreasing. So, no matter which country you are looking at, the income and wealth have been polarizing very much between the very rich people to the, just the majority of population, which are just so and so. And the corona pandemic is now accelerating social polarization. Why? Because low-income marginalized workers cannot work from home online. They have to just go to a construction site themselves because they have to rely on their physical labor only. So and they are the ones which are very heavily affected in terms of losing their jobs, in terms of accepting wage cut. And also, as I said, the asset prices have been increasing very drastically since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic last year. Mostly, for example, equity prices, for example, increased very much. And also, housing prices increased very much. So who are they who own those equities and houses? They are the rich people. And rich people have become richer because of the asset inflation as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And because of the acceleration of the first industrial revolution, also we are now looking at the widening social polarization, because now the first industrial revolution means that there are only very few talented people who can really make the most of new technologies and new machines. But most of the people who are left behind will see their income and wealth share shrinking relative to the very selected, talented people. And the new normal, number 5, is hot Earth. Perhaps you have heard of this very much. So at high temperature, anomalies have become greater and more frequent in recent years in the world, on land and everywhere. Well, the consequences, well, global warming consequences, there are many different consequences, but I just skip this because of the time constraint. But I'd like to just emphasize this. Actually, the carbon dioxide emissions is one of the main reasons for the global warming, as you know. And as you see now, power industry and transport industry and other industrial revolution are the 3 major causes of carbon dioxide emissions, right? And who are responsible for the carbon dioxide emissions? Mostly China and the US and India, Russia, and Japan and South Korea. South Korea, as you can see here now. And the ranking here, the South Korea ranks 8th in terms of the size of carbon dioxide emissions, which is the main cause of global warming. And as you can see now, the carbon dioxide emissions from Korea has been increasing very rapidly, more rapidly than any other countries, which are now here, the US, Japan, China, and European Union. So the international society has agreed that we just make a very special effort to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, right? To just remain safe, but which is not easy. But what does this all mean? This means that now the countries and the industries and companies will have to really think about how we can reduce the carbon dioxide emitting power generation, and also just transport means like buses, trucks, and cars, which use just petroleum. But perhaps we'll have to increase use of the electricity, for example, and such the environment-friendly fuels very much. And Cold War between America and China. So you may just think of this too much provocative, but this is not my argument. But according to Professor Graham Allison, who is a Harvard professor of political science, he said that for the last 500 years, there were 16 instances when the incumbent superpower came into sharp conflict with an aspiring superpower. Nowadays, who is the incumbent superpower? America, the US. Who is an aspiring superpower? Which is, of course, China. Previously, for the past 500 years, 12 out of 16 conflicts resulted in actual war. One of the outliers, one of the exceptions was the US-Soviet power struggle. At the time, they just had the Cold War and avoiding the actual hot war. Why? Because both countries had a huge amount of nuclear weapons. So perhaps very much a similar situation is now being anticipated, because US and China are both big superpowers, not only in terms of population, in terms of economic size, but also in terms of the great amount of nuclear weapons. So any of these countries will just start war, because if anyone just starts a war, that means both countries will just end up with a total catastrophe. So the Cold War is more likely very much. what does Cold War really mean? That means there will be a lot of small proxy wars. Even during the Cold War period of US and the Soviet Union, most of the Eastern European countries and some of the East Asian countries were the victims. And we, Korea, was one of them. Now, perhaps now the new Cold War between America and Korea, now we'll perhaps have to we'll have to see another small size neighboring countries which are very much victimized, and you know, most of them are East Asian countries, including Korea. And number 7 is spreading socialism, because of many, you know, CCTVs, many cameras, and many, you know, internet platforms like Facebook, Google's, and many things like that. As I said, we are now living in half, at least, in the metaverse, which means actually our, you know, daily life is now being shared with, you know, everybody else, including the government. So the government is now actually utilizing the new means of technology system and machines. As a result of Industrial Revolution 4.0, now the state, the government, is now able to surveil or able to oversee the daily lives of the people. And they also, because of the artificial intelligence and many of the advanced means of planning, the state is now able to make a good economic planning as well. You know, actually, this what I call Chinese socialism, because when China first started kind of economic reform and outdoor policy with Deng Xiaoping in 1979, many, you know, Western countries, including the US, expected that China will ultimately give up socialism. But because of the advent of because of the new technologies of machines, the government is now actually perhaps, you know, strengthening those social governance very much. That is what I call Chinese socialism. But even in America, now because of the increased government spending, because of the social polarization, and because of the climate warming, you know, now there's a great possibility of increasing role of the government. That is American socialism, right? And also, many people have been talking about implementing universal basic income. Why? Because of the shortage of human jobs with the, you know, advanced you know, technologies of artificial intelligence and robots and such. So we human beings are very much likely to lose our jobs, because now machines are replacing not only our physical labor, but also our, you know, mental labor as well. So perhaps we'll have to rely on basic income very much, which means now the government will have to exert a greater role in distributing the income to the population. Well, I have some more slides to talk about, but I'll just skip this because of the time constraint. The last one is digital globalization. Well, so as I said, you know, because of the pandemic, the previous globalization has come to an end. What was the distinct features of the third globalization? Well, global value chains, for example. Now, but the global value chains in the previous globalization was rather very much simple. Why? Because the producer, the producing company, makes a plan ahead, okay? And it just started with R&D activities and make a product design, and then decide where to produce some parts and components here and there, and where to assemble those parts and components, and where to distribute them, you know, and where to go for some after sales marketing and such. So in that sense, there is kind of unidirectional linkages of global value chain in the previous wave of globalization. But because of the pandemic, as you know, the global value chains were very much heavily affected. So if there was one single country which was very heavily affected by the pandemic, then the entire series of global value chain was very much heavily affected. So there was many, there were kind of many discussions about reshoring. So many global companies wanted to just go back to their home countries. But now that's not just because of the pandemic, but because of the very rapid increase in the new technologies. Because of the advanced technologies back home, they are not able to utilize the AIs and robots and many new technologies to produce their products more efficiently with less cost. So they don't need to move their actually production facilities to a third world like China, Vietnam, and such countries. So they're just going back, not just because of the pandemic, but because of the new technologies, which are now being developed very rapidly in their home countries as well. And because of this, and because of all this digital networking, now perhaps new globalization is not just unidirectional, but should be very much bi-directional. What do I mean by this? Now the consumers are the ones which can actually participate in the very early stages of a global value chain as well. Because of the 3D printing, for example, just if a consumer just places an order, then producer can just make a product just following a very specific order of a consumer. So in that sense, there is a kind of two-way flows of value chains in the new wave of globalization, thanks to the fourth industrial revolution. That's what I'm saying here now. So a new emerging global value chain is taking new forms based on digital platforms, Internet of Things, robots, artificial intelligence, and new skill-intensive services rather than labor-intensive manufacturing, goods, and physical trade. The previous one, the third wave of globalization, actually the first wave of globalization started in the wake of the first industrial revolution. And the second wave of globalization just started in the second, in the second wave, in the second industrial revolution. And the third, in tandem with the third industrial revolution. Now we are looking at a new wave of globalization, which is the fourth wave of globalization, which is now rising in tandem with the fourth industrial revolution, right? With this, now previously the English was the main means of communication and the American culture was very much dominant. But now with a new wave of globalization, perhaps the culture and knowledge of different countries will spread across the world through the internet. And we have a very automatic language interpreters as well. So for example, K-pop and K-pop culture has become very much popular, not only in East Asia, but also in almost every corner of the world. And the BTS, for example, sings songs in Korean languages. And BTS and many other Korean pop stars and many movie stars are very much now being popular, perhaps not just because of their excellence, but because of the new technologies which are now being available with the fourth industrial revolution. That's what I would like to say. So previously, perhaps the third wave of globalization was very much characterized with Beatles, and now a new wave of globalization, perhaps with BTS. Well, I have some more things to say, and I have a song to play here, but because of the time constraint, I think I'd like to stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Lee, for a great speech, which described a new normals in the post-COVID-19 world. Second keynote speaker is Professor Lim Sung-bae from St. Mary University. He's also a research fellow for the Center for Blockchain Technology at the University College London in the United Kingdom. He specialized in IT-driven innovation strategy, blockchain technology, and e-commerce strategy. He is here today to share his great perspective on AI, big data, and blockchain. Triad for a smart future. Please join me in the welcoming Professor Lim.
Good afternoon. It is my great honor to be here, and then I deeply appreciate Dean Dr. Hyungjun Kim, the Dean of the College of Economics and Management, and then Dr. Hichol Moon, President of National Economics and Management Association of Korea, and Director of Management Economics Research Institute of Chungnam University. Okay. So, Dr. Lee, previous speaker just mentioned about BTS, and then so it just reminded me my great memory at the United Nations. So just a week before the day BTS delivered speech at the United Nations, I also delivered a lecture at the United Nations, and then right after that, when I joined international conference as a keynote speaker, they introduced me as a BTS of academics. And then when I told this story, my wife said, never mention that again. So you will make, BTS fan really get angry. So anyway, so today I have about 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna do two things. First, I'm gonna try to explain not BTS, actually blockchain. And then I'm gonna explain about main theme of my lecture. Okay, so then, so in Korea, there is an old saying one saw and another reaps. That means, most of effort made by a bear, and then but the value from that effort is taken by a man, businessman, right? So similar thing happen in our lives a lot. So, this is a picture of Simon and Garfunkel, the great duo who used to be as famous as BTS with 6 Grammy Awards in a year. But they broke up because, small guy, Paul Simon is very talented, really talented. So he's the only one who got who ranked his song in Billboard for 6 decades. And then the tall guy is Art Garfunkel. So Paul Simon is very talented, but not a good singer. Art Garfunkel is not really talented, but has great angelic voice. So in conclusion, Paul Simon provide talent and the benefit taken by Art Garfunkel mostly. They of course broke up. And the similar thing happened a lot in business. You know, people talking a lot about camcorder by Sony, but it was originally invented by Kodak. Same thing, disposable diapers. Actually, Chucks developed, but the value taken by Pampers. Same thing. You know, the idea of Facebook was developed by 6degrees.com. So we talk a lot about innopreneurship. That means there are two phases in innovation. The first one is a planting seed of innovation. Second, harvesting the value of innovation. So to harvest the value of innovation, we should overcome a lot of difficulties. That's why we emphasize entrepreneurial orientation. So to become a great innovator, you should have this kind of a personal orientation. So if I narrow down IT area, which influence our lives a lot. So when it comes to PC, IBM planted the seed, the value taken by Microsoft with OS and then Intel with the microprocessor. Same thing happened to the era of internet. So Cisco built infrastructure and the value were taken by Google and Amazon. Same thing for mobile world now. So most of innovation was planted by telecommunication company and Apple. I intentionally locate Apple at the borderline. Why? It planted mobile world seed, but at the same time, Apple made a lot of money, obviously. But real reaper who took the most of value was Netflix and then mobile game developers. How about cloud? Now we are living in the era of cloud, like Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, and then Google Cloud. So they build infra, and then the most of value is taken by many startups. Why? In the past, the main dilemma of becoming startup is infront cost, especially IT investment, like a server machine kind of a thing. But now because of cloud, everybody can access IT infrastructure for very reasonable service. So they provide new, like a hope to many startups. How about, this is my question, how about who will be a reaper who take most of value in first industrial revolution? So I'll talk about that issue by talking about synergistic combination among blockchain, big data, cloud, and AI today. So you understand most of this concept, but blockchain a little still confusing. So I'm gonna make about 10-minute lecture about blockchain. So I believe I'm very talented in terms of explaining blockchain very easily. That means if you don't understand my blockchain, you might be never understand blockchain. So, okay, so this is a sculpture made by Michelangelo called Pieta. When Michelangelo introduced this one, the initial reaction by people was not really positive. Why? The ratio between Saint Mary's and then Jesus really not matching. Jesus' mom looks bigger than his son. But what Michelangelo said, look at this one. I'm very customer oriented. If I translated what he says in business language, he made this one not for the people, but for the God who is believed to live in heaven on the sky. From the sky, it looks like this one. It looks very natural. So why I'm talking about this one, up to now, you look at the world from this angle. But in the future, from now on, because of blockchain mainly, you should take this perspective. you should change your way to interpret changing world. So today's purpose of lecture is about giving you a chance to develop this angle with my lecture. So let's have a detour. Okay, before I talk about main issue, I'll try to help you understand blockchain. So blockchain is a combination of all the old technology. So newest technology for blockchain was invented about 20 years ago. Okay, like the case of iPhone, it made convergence of many new technology. That's kind of blockchain. So it is basically distributed ledger. That means instead of recording transaction at the central server, everybody keeps same Excel transaction file and then record it together, update it together. Okay. And then internet of value. That means, what's the limitation of internet? We can share information, but we couldn't share value using internet. If we share value using internet, that's disaster. Sharing value means using same money again, unlimited time. But now it's possible because of a blockchain. So this is an example of NFT called a non-fungible token. So picture called Disaster Girl. So, up to now, there is no way to tell which is the original version. If you Google, you can find this picture. Digitally, every picture is same. But how we can prove that this is a real picture taken right at that moment? With the internet, it's impossible. But with blockchain, it's possible. So that's why you can get exactly the same one. But original, there is only one original picture taken by her dad. So recently, her dad sold this one for $500,000, 6억 in Korean. Same thing. On the right side is Korean one. That picture, you can get same picture, exact same picture on the website, but there is only one original one, proven by blockchain. That costs $500,000. And then the large one is called Everyday. So the price was $69 million, about 700억 in Korean. You can get exactly the same one, but if you get original one, that costs about $70 million. That's the power of blockchain. And then it basically P2P. That means there are no central power. Everybody's same. So that means we can expect very democratic, transparent governance system. So how blockchain work? I prepare a simulation. Let's say there are only two computers connected, Bob and Alex, on the blockchain network. And then Bob borrowed $55 from Alex. Okay, they recorded together as a distributed ledger. And then later, Alex became bad guy, and then he added one more digit and saying, Bob, you borrowed $155 from me. And then Bob really got upset, but there is no way to prove. Why? There are only two members. How about this one? Paul joined. And then Paul saying, Bob, Alex, don't tell a lie. My ledger clearly show you lent only $55. So now Bob can prove the truth because of Paul. But how about this case? There is a conspiracy between Bob and Paul. So Bob persuaded Paul saying, if you tell a lie for me, I'm gonna divide the money half and half. And then Paul told a lie. And then Bob told a lie for Alex. So that means Bob had to pay $100, although the truth is $55 only. But how about this case? So in this case, how many people Alex should persuade to tell a lie? How much money he can get? So 5, including himself. And then instead of $100, he can get only $20. That means not really productive. How about this case? How many people Alex should persuade to tell a lie? Eventually unlimited. There are about 60,000 computers connected. So this is a blockchain, very transparent, and then telling a lie is not really productive, and then only append on it. So this is a blockchain, okay? And then if you Google YouTube, you can find my lecture about blockchain, and then you can easily understand if you are interested. So how we can use blockchain? Cryptocurrency is just one small part of blockchain. Real value comes from here. If you need this kind of thing, adopt blockchain. If you need better transparency, better security, better integrity of data, democratic governance system, cost reduction, token economy, and so on, take blockchain, okay? And then if I summarize this one, as you know, the first successful application of blockchain is a Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a service and product that made a lot of negative impact on blockchain. Why? Real value of blockchain comes from not the product and service, from process improvement. Using blockchain, you should think about how you can dramatically improve your existing business process, how you can develop new business model using blockchain. That should be real focus, but because of Bitcoin, we are focusing a lot about product and service. Very difficult area. So blockchain is basically social technology, which improving existing process and then developing new business model. So now let's think about main topics. So triad of blockchain, big data, and AI. As a matter of fact, there are trade-off. If you ask me, what's the meaning of smartness? That means overcoming trade-off. Korea become very great in the world because we overcome trade-off between openness and then prevention of a pandemic. Instead of easily prevent pandemic by shutting down, like Taiwan and then North Korea, maybe, Korea still open our economy, and then we did great in terms of prevention of pandemic. So overcoming trade-off is very important. As you can see, there is trade-off between blockchain and cloud. Basically, blockchain is decentralized, very transparent, not really efficient in terms of speed. But cloud is centralized, opaque, and then efficient. How we can overcome, how we can make a synergy combination is matter. So blockchain can do this kind of thing. Autonomy to IoT device in cloud using smart contract, and then faster recovery from network failure, very secure network, as I mentioned, and then data security. And then cloud can provide easy infrastructure building by providing infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, providing access to infra required for building blockchain networks. And then how about the blockchain and big data? So blockchain provide security for big data, of course, and then quality of data, garbage in, garbage out. So, just getting bigger is not enough. That's why now we emphasize a lot of veracity, which means high quality. So using blockchain, we can make sure integrity of data. So quality of data for big data will be skyrocketed easily by using blockchain technology. And then also, if you make a decision based on wrong information, your decision will be wrong. So when you make informed decision, you want to make sure you got right information. So that can be supported by blockchain. And then, so we expect about 20% of big data will be accounted for blockchains, okay, in the very near future. And then big data can support the blockchain in terms of scalability and then analytics. As you know, there is a lot of advanced analytics tool in big data, such as NoSQL, not only SQL kind of thing. So this is a kind of a synergy combination. So blockchain provides transparency and then integrity of data, and then based on that kind of data, so big data data provide input to AI, and then AI can make better decisions. So this is a synergy combination I'm thinking about. So why I'm thinking about this one. So what is a real player? So real issue of fourth industrial revolution. So we should approach network as a service. Instead of handling everything separately, big data, AI, blockchain, cloud, augmented reality, IoT kind of thing, you should think of everything as a single system. So for example, you can regard like SK Telecom system as a system. Okay? So think about big picture, right? So that kind of approach is very important. We call that digital transformation. So key nature of digital transformation is making digital twin, and then good example is metaverse. Okay, so meta means beyond, which is a title of my book called Meta Innovation. So that means another universe. We can create another universe by using a concept called the digital twin. You make your own twin in another world. So-called avatar is a good example. So having a single another metaverse means you are creating another network as a system. To make this network as a system work, you should make a synergy combination among AI, big data, cloud, right? So that's very important. So what is a smart future? Okay. So that means overcoming synergy combinations. So usually, if a business makes a lot of money, less contribution to society in the past. Now we can do both of them together, as an example of ESG. Now we emphasize a lot about ESG, right? Which stands for environment, social, and then governance. Okay? In the past, we believe there is a trade-off among these three things. But now we believe we can make a synergy combination by using the power of information technology. So doing well by doing good. In the past, doing well by pursuing profit, but now you can doing well by doing a lot of contribution to the society, especially by using IT. So what are requirements? We need smart people, leadership, industry, and infrastructure. So for example, using blockchain, we can provide self-sovereign identity. That means from now on with the blockchain, you can smartly manage your own data. Even you can make money. You can control who can use your private data, your information about you. And you can keep track of that, who are using, and then you can make money. And then every Wikipedia, what's the negative side of Wikipedia? That's very good, user-oriented, right? Co-creation, but quality issue. If we adopt blockchain, now we make consensus. Whenever there is an update about any information, we can make a consensus among thousands of network members. That's a business model for every Wikipedia. And the smart leadership, blockchain dramatically improve collaboration efficacy. You can, because of transparency, no free rider. Because of token economy, you can reward those who make a contribution to our society so easily. So it reduces cost for collaboration. And then if your major is accounting, you are in danger. So we call triple entry ledger system. Debit, credit, and blockchain. That means auditing wouldn't be necessary anymore in the very near future. It will be done automatically, auditing on the blockchain. And the smart industry, in the past, when there is a problem with Mango, it took about 2 weeks to find why. But now with the blockchain, IoT, AI combined together, you can tell in a second what was the problem. And then smart infrastructures. Using blockchain and then smart contract, IoT, we can make everything handled so easily using your smartphone, using your credit card, whatever, okay? So this is a business model of Slack, a German startup. And the smart infrastructure is a combination of Singularity Net, is a combination of AI and blockchain together. Using token, we can make easy transaction among AI business. And using smart contract, we can easily keep track of what AI skill converged together, combined together. In the way we can expedite collaboration among AI companies. Okay, so that's a business model of Singularity Net. And then storage is a decentralized data storage business. When you have idle capacity, you can provide that capacity of your own data resource. Okay. So what is a smart future? So what I want to emphasize is not beyond the trade-off. Think about what kind of trade-off we have in our society and how we can overcome, right? We could overcome the trade-off between rich and then richness using internet technology, right? So what trade-off we can overcome? That's the kind of mission we have. And then with the creative mindset and then with the technology, we can overcome whatever trade-off we encounter, and then we can make our world a better place to live together, okay? So my answer for this question, network as a service. Think about synergy combination of advanced technology for common good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lin, for a magnificent speech. Third keynote speaker is Professor Du Jianguo from Jiangsu University in China. He is also Dean of School of Management and Director of Social Science and Computing Experimental Center of Jiangsu University. His research field covered the environmental management, corporate environmental behavior, big data, and social management engineering. I'd like to invite Professor Du to deliver the last keynote speech on untangling the influence of the organization capability on the green supply chain management effort to boost organizational performance through the information technology capabilities. Please join me in welcoming Professor Du.
Distinguished Professor Boy, and Professor Wu, Professor Kim, and ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon. It's my honor to attend this conference and to make a speech as a keynote speaker. And my topic is untangling the influence of organizational compatibility and green supply chain management efforts to boost organizational performance through information technology capabilities. This work is cooperated with one of my postdoctoral from Pakistan. His name is Fakar. The study seeks to identify the influence of organizational compatibility and green supply chain management efforts and estimate their influence on organizational performance. Meanwhile, the study also explores the mediating influence of information technology, IT capability, and the association between GSMC efforts and organizational performance. The results show that the organizational capability compatibilities positively promote GSM efforts and contribute to the expanding of dynamic capability theories in the context of IT capabilities. The results also indicate that IT capability are key mediator that affects the association between GS7 efforts and organizational performance. First up, most previous studies have focused on organization where IT is applied to SCM. Few studies have addressed the association between ITCs and organizational performance from the perspective of GSM. While previous studies have successfully demonstrated that the positive impact of integration, IT operation, and supply chain management. The literature lacks a clear description of IT integration consequences for GS7 efforts. GS7 efforts are a strategic initiative taken by an organization to improve its successful business and environmental protection capabilities, which could have a profound influence on organizational operation. Therefore, first on those premises, this study hypothesizes that coordinating GS7 efforts and ITCs can help to improve organizational performance. This is the conceptual model of this researcher. Organization compatibility is represented by three dimensions. There are technological compatibility, operation compatibility, cultural compatibility, and great supply chain management efforts include eco-design, supply chain process, environmental management. IT capability is represented by IT management, IT development, and IT intensity. Organization performance is divided into operational performance and environmental performance. First, on the literature review, this study suggests that empirically tested a researcher model which can measure the impact of organizational compatibility and GS7 efforts that assist to improve organizational performance. First, on the current researcher, we gave the proposed hypothesis. H1A. Technology compatibility has a positive impact on GS7 efforts. H1B. Operation compatibility has a creative impact on GS7 efforts. H1C. CC has a positive impact on GS7 efforts. H2A. GS7 efforts have a positive impact on ITCs. H2B. GS7 efforts have a positive impact on organizational operation, performance. H2C. GSM efforts have a positive impact on organization environmental performance. H3A. IT capabilities have a positive impact on organizational operation performance. H3B. IT capability mediating the relationship between GSM efforts and the organizational operation performance. H4A. IT capability have a positive impact on organizational environmental performance. H4B. IT capabilities mediating the relationship between GSM efforts and the organization environmental performance. H5. Organizational operation performance is positively related to its environmental performance. Researcher methodology. The latest international environmental performance index rank Pakistan 160 lines with a score of 37.5. As a developing nation, Pakistan faces gigantic challenge in balancing its economic and environmental needs. Therefore, the targeted population of the study included employees of various Pakistani superstores who concerned with the supply chain activities and where great supply chain management efforts vary in mature rate. Constructive operationalization. The studies use 7-point Richter scale where response ranks from 1, that is strongly disagree, and 7, strongly agree. All measurements in items were adapted from previous studies and revised to fit the perspective. The study IT capabilities were also measured users second-order formative scale. First on the 3 key factors mentioned above: IT management, IT development, and IT intensity capability. Data collection proceeded as follows. First, senior management of a superstore in Pakistan were contacted, and the purpose of the study was described to them. A computer-assisted web interview technique was used for data collection. The required sample size was 60 as per hair. ATR 2014 uses the tenfold rule. However, the literature suggested that a sample size of 200 or greater is reasonable. We are applying a structural equation modeling analysis. Total number of failure sample size was 370. Meanwhile, the study gauged the adequacy of sample size using the post-hockey of G-Power software for all exogenous variables, including formative indicators. The study analyzed the data by applying the PSEM to measure the relationship between constructed using Smart plus V3 software. The results described here include that there are no issues regarding the convergent validity and reliability. This can be seen from the following table. Discriminant validity was assessed using the three techniques. 1. Formal local criterion. 2. Loading and cross-loading. 3. Heterotrait, maltrait, racing. The diagonal value in table indicate that the value of square root of AVE are higher than the coefficients of the correlation of variables among each other. This indicates good discriminant validity. The results of item loadings and cross-loading or corresponding values and indicate that the item loadings of factors are greater than the cross-loading value of other latent factors. This indicates adequate discriminant validity by fulfilling the cross-loading criterion. The table is not printed during to its length. The highest value in the table is 0.612, which is under the threshold value. HMT should be less than 2, described by Hensler et al. 2016, 2014. It demonstrated that the discriminant validity of this study is adequate. Table represents the overall results of structure model based on the theta results. All the hypotheses are accepted. The results can be seen from the following table. Common method bias and multi-cognition rating. Hermann single factors test is often used to test the presence of 7B in a study. This can be seen Patsky et al. 2012 and 2003. Results indicated that the first factor explains 36% of the variation, which is less than the value of 15% threshold value for 7B. The inner variance inflation factor was also applied to address the 7B issue in smart PLS-V3. The value ranged from 1.3 to 1.64, which is less than the threshold value of less than 3.3. Multi-cognition rate was assessed use outer VIF value. The highest VIF value was 4.2, which was under the threshold value of 10 as proposed. This can be seen from here, et al. 1998, Martin and Parward 1991. This is the low issue of 7B and multi-cognition rate. The last part, conclusion and implication overall. The results of this study indicate that technology capability has a positive influence on organization during supply chain management efforts. These results indicated that technical issues should be considered for the sustainable improvement of GSM efforts. This study also found that OC and CC are key indicators of improved GSM efforts. Therefore, organizations should develop and enhance their OC and CC to enhance their GSM efforts. Therefore, organizations should develop and enhance their OC and CC to enhance their GSM. Positive organization compatibility create an environment in which company can strengthen their GSM efforts and attain their organizational performance goal over the long term. This study results are supported by dynamic capability theory and also contributed to the supply chain management literature by building on previous theoretical and practical study of GSM. Overall, the results of the study indicate that technology capability has a positive influence on organizational GSM efforts. These results indicate that technical issues should be considered for the sustainable improvement of GSM efforts. The study also found that OC and CC are key indicator of improved GSM efforts. Therefore, organizations should develop and enhance their OC and CC to enhance their GSM efforts. Therefore, organizations should develop and enhance their OC and CC. Positive organization capability create an environment in which company can strengthen their GSM efforts and attain their organizational performance goal over the long term. The study results are supported by dynamic capability theories and also contributed to the supply chain management literature by building on previous theoretical and practical study of GSM. This paper is of great significance to as a supply chain manager and design maker for two core reasons. First, it indicates that supply chain practitioners attach great importance to identifying technical, operation, and cultural aspects that might affect the organization GSM efforts. Second, given that IT compatibility mediating the link between GSM efforts and organizational performance, the authors recommended that SC manager integrated those factors into their management design to improve their environmental performance. Imitation and future research direction. The current study relies on cross-sectional data, a single piece of information from each superstore in Pakistan. In the future, a longitudinal study might better inspect the possible effect of various kinds of organization. compatibility and GSM efforts by measuring their impact before and after implementation of GSM efforts. Future studies might attempt to identify other, more precise elements of GSM efforts at each stage in order to deliver a more comprehensive definition of this concept in other contexts. This study collected several data of supply chain employee at a retail level store. Future researchers should focus on different levels of supply chain management in manufacturing organization. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Du, for your great speech. Now we are a little bit behind the schedule, therefore we are not able to have a discussion time. If you have any question, you can contact the speaker via email. This concludes the opening ceremony of the 3rd International Conference on the First Industrial Revolution and the Global Value Chain. We'll now have a few minutes for photo time. In the meantime, all other online and offline participants may want to take a short break. And please join the online and offline seminar session, which starts at 3:30 p.m. Thank you very much.